Hey guys, I was inspired to do this video after watching G2 Outdoors, Greg Godfrey's channel, where he does a DIY AM steel aider for his Tethrd one stick climbing sticks. I got the Tethrd Skeletors and I decided, hey, I'm going to do the same thing. But if you're like me and you're a hunter that's on a budget, which necessity is oftentimes the mother of invention, you're thinking, hey, can I do the same thing but do it cheaper? And I said, what do I have laying around the house? And what I came up with is what I'm going to show you in the video today to make potentially a $20 or less 4 aiders for your Tethrd Skeletor climbing sticks. I hope this helps, and I don't recommend you necessarily to do this. This is my own DIY. Disclaimer out there now, I'm not recommending it. I'm just explaining to you what is going to work for me and what I'm going to use for this upcoming season. If you do use paracord, make sure you check the specification. I'm using military grade paracord. We call it 550 cord in the military. We know it's rated for 550 pounds. Super useful. Use it for a lot of stuff. I've been using it for over 12 years and I trust it. But make sure you test your own gear before you make it, before you trust your life to it out in the middle of the woods, potentially by yourself, climbing up a tree. All right, guys, I hope this helps. Okay guys, for this DIY project, this is everything you're going to need. So I'm using the Tethrd Skeletor sticks specifically because they have these holes in the steps. You're going to need a Dremel tool, some type of ceramic attachment. You can use different kinds. Measuring tape to measure out your 550 cord. Gorilla tape or some other type of duct tape. Military grade 550 cord or paracord. Way to tighten down your Dremel tool. Pair of scissors to cut your 550 cord. And a way to burn the ends of your paracord or 550 cord. And that's it. That's everything you're going to need for this DIY project. You should be able to make these aiders for your Skeletors with just the things that you see below. It's a very inexpensive way to have aiders that are rated at 550 pounds, which exceeds the weight rating of the steps. Manufacturer, being Tethrd, recommends that you do not exceed 300 pounds for their Skeletor steps. The paracord is rated, military grade paracord is rated at 550 pounds. When you put the knot in the 550 cord, it will slightly reduce the overall tensile strength of the 550 cord, but it will not go below the 300 pound rating for the Tethrd Skeletors. So that's everything you're going to need. All right, so first thing we got to do is we have to address these holes on the steps of the Tethrd Skeletors. If you notice, these holes have a slight edge to them. It's not rounded off. And we're eventually going to be putting our 550 cord through these holes. We're going to be tying them. Over time, even though this edge is not sharp, over time, that's going to begin to cut into the 550 cord. 550 cord is really strong, but it can be cut fairly easily. So what we need to do is we need to round off these holes and make sure that there's no burrs there. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use the Dremel tool. And it's real simple. This is not an expensive Dremel. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. See? Round it out. I'm applying just the weight of the Dremel tool itself to the step, okay? Smooth it up quite a bit. Now I'm just gonna take another attachment and I'm just gonna make sure that there's no burrs. I don't want there to be any slight burrs on the inside. So we're just gonna quickly hit that and I can kind of feel whether or not it's rough or smooth. And that's it. Nice and smooth. So we want to smooth off both sides. So it looks like this. So just the bottom step is where we're going to be applying the aider. I'm going to make sure there's no burrs on either side. And that's what it should look like when we're done. All right, guys. We're going to tie this knot now onto our Skeletor bottom step. We're going to count for about 8 inches that's going to take to utilize this knot. We're going to use an inline bowling with a securing overhand knot that we then cut and burn. So the way that we're going to do this knot is we're going to run through the bottom step, through the hole that we've dremeled out so it's smooth on the edges. Okay? And we're just going to lay on the bottom the rope back over on itself. Okay? Makes a little loop. All right? Now to remember how to tie this knot, we bring it over. We say the rabbit comes out of the hole. It goes around the tree. And then it goes back into the hole. That's the way you can remember how to tie this knot. Now I'm going to cinch down on this side. But I've got too much slack right now, so let's get some more out of this. Okay. Go through. I want to have enough extra slack so that I can do a securing knot. Okay? And I'm going to hold that side where the rabbit comes out. I'm going to hold that side. I'm just going to cinch it down. All right? We now have an inline bowling knot. Okay? This knot will not come loose. This is what boats sometimes use to tie off, where you have, a lot of moving back and forth because of the tide or the ocean water. The knot will stay in place. All right? So now we're just going to do a securing knot with this side. So I'm going to go through that same hole. I'm just going to come back all the way around, back on itself. I'm going to pull that through tight. That's just to make sure that for some reason this doesn't wiggle free. Okay? So that securing knot is just an overhand knot, comes back on itself. All right? We're going to trim and burn. Trim it. We're going to try not to apply heat to the actual knot itself, just the frayed end. Let it start to melt, and then we're just going to press it in place. So now I have a bowline with a securing knot, securing overhand knot, and that's how we're going to attach the 550 cord to our dremeled out hole on our Tethrd Skeletor step. All right, guys, so you can see here's my 2 bowling knots or inline bowling knots with a securing overhand knot cut and burned. Here's the 550 cord. Takes it up to about 18 inches. All right, there's a little bit more than 18 inches between steps, but I've basically doubled the length I can use by making this aider approximately the same length as it would be between steps. All right, guys, I've laid out 2 pieces of Gorilla Tape upside down. You can see They've been torn at approximately 5 inches each. This is the amount of space I want for the width of my foot on my aider. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to attach this here in a second. All right, guys, I apologize with the angle. I'm using my phone to film this, but just wanted to show you guys this, how I'm going to tape it. All right, so I'm using 2 pieces of Gorilla Tape, approximately cut to 5 inches in length. Not perfectly cut, but approximately 5 inches. I want to find the exact center point, line that up with my tape as best I can. And then I'm going to stretch this out to the width of the tape. Okay? I'm now going to carefully lay in. I want this to be facing down away from my step. Okay? Trying to make it even so it's across the middle of the tape. All right? And lay this back down. I can lay this back on top. Nothing fancy to it. Now my angle, my tape, should help to keep my aider open when it's hanging on the tree. All right. I'm going to do one other thing to my 550 cord so that you guys can see another step to make sure this 550, when it's blowing in the wind, doesn't get tangled up on itself. All right, guys, last thing I'm going to do in this process to make sure that this stays pointing down away from the step. Of course, gravity is going to do most of the work, but with the wind blowing, my foot getting caught on something, we're just going to tape this using a small piece of Gorilla Tape. I think this one I ripped it at about between 1.5 inches and 2 inches is all you're going to need. All right, and all we're going to do is lay this long ways and just tape it back on itself. Super simple. Okay, do another one of these. Nothing fancy. Same thing with this one. Tape it back on itself. All right, and what this is going to allow for, as you can see here, is that this is just going to make sure that the aider is going to be pointing down and doesn't get caught up on stuff. Trying to stay super light, trying to stay super mobile, trying to make this an inexpensive aider. So there it is. Gorilla Tape, 550 cord or paracord, bowline knot, followed by securing overhand knot, cut and burned, and there you go. I just doubled the length of my step. All right, guys, the wind was blowing really strong today and was messing up the sound. So I decided to take the sound off the video and just talk with you guys about what's happening. Basically, I'm going to attach the step to the tree. I'm going to show you just how I would normally attach it to the tree. I'm going to get the right foot height. So I'm going to have my aider or my foot go into the aider and then attach the step accordingly so that that first step into the aider is going to be the right height for me. And that fluctuates for every person. Once I get that set, I'm going to attach the step to the tree using Tethrd's unique method of attachment, where it's kind of like a cross stitch. And then I'm going to step into the aider. Now, when I step into the aider, I'm going to put my toe directly into the tree. I'm going to try to do a 90-degree angle, and that's going to keep it from slipping left or right. Of course, I'm going to attach my lineman's belt because every time I climb up a step, even if it's one step, just for safety reasons, I'm going to use my lineman's belt. It's going to make sure that if I trip or fall, it's going to keep me from falling down on the ground. So then I'm going to step into my aider, step up to my first step, then I can go up to the next step, and then, of course, if I'm continuing to climb the tree, I would continue to attach steps with my aider. Coming down, a couple things to be aware of.
Obviously, the wind could blow your aider, and this happens with any aider, whether it's 550 cord or an AM steel or using a 1-inch tubular nylon, whatever it may be. You want to make sure that your foot digs at a 90-degree angle directly into the tree. And this is going to allow you to have that steadiness coming down. Obviously, it's easier going up than it is coming down. Coming down, you might be at night. So you want to make sure that you really get that toe dug directly into the tree. So that the wind in this situation, it's blowing the aider quite a bit, which is not unrealistic. But you can see because the Gorilla Tape taped onto the 550 cord, it's got enough weight, and with the little bit of tape, 1.5 inches of tape at the top near the knot, it keeps the 550 cord oriented down. It allows you to actually step into it. Now, nothing's perfect. This isn't perfect either, but generally speaking, this is going to allow me to safely step into the 550 cord aider and get my enough grip onto the aider to where I can then step down. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm pretty convinced that this is going to be the way forward for me using a very inexpensive DIY aider with my tethered Skeletor.
All right, just to clarify one more time with the paracord, I didn't say it exactly right. Each knot takes up approximately 8 inches, so that's 16 inches of paracord, and this is 18 inches. Imagine basically two sides. Each side is 18 inches. So total length for the step, you're going to need 36 inches. So 36 inches plus 8 is going to take you to 52. So you need to make sure you cut 4 pieces of paracord at 52 inches, which is going to give you an 18 inch. All right, guys, there's my 4 tethered Skeletor climbing sticks with my new 550 DIY 18-inch aiders, all attached together. Didn't have any issues when I put the steps together, and this is how I'm going to stow them. As you can see, doesn't really add any bulk. No issues collapsing the step. Just one of the things I wanted to avoid. And they're short enough where there isn't much slack. You could possibly use a bungee cord to go around this. You do have a little bit of slack. Most of my steps are 18 inches. I think this is my longest one. It's about 19.5 inches. So I didn't do a perfect cut, or when I made my knot, I had a little extra slack. But yeah, that's what they look like. All 4 ready to go. This is what I'm going to be using this coming up fall. This is what I'm going to practice with in the wintertime when I get my saddle. Practice my setup, practice shooting out of my saddle, getting ready for this coming up fall season. So there you have it. $20 DIY 550 cord aider or paracord aiders. Make sure you check your equipment. If you're not sure about how to tie a bowline knot, make sure you look it up. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. I'm not an expert. Make sure you check out other videos online. Talk to experts. If you don't trust these knots here, don't use them, okay? This is my disclaimer, is that this is what I'm going to use. I'm not necessarily saying this is what you should use. Just an idea for you guys out there. All right, guys. Hope this helps. Hope you guys have an opportunity to make your own inexpensive, cheap DIY aider so that you can have more time in the woods and you're spending less of your hard-earned money.